Hello everyone and welcome to Season 7, Episode 34 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host Travis McNeil, and today we continue our countdown of the top 50 matches in CHIKARA history with match number 17 on our list, which is the street fight between Cheech and Cloudy and Matt Turner and Anthony Franco from the CHIKARA Young Lions Cup 3 Grapes of Wrath event held on July the 24th of 2005. This is absolutely my sentimental favorite match on this entire countdown. There's certainly matches that are better than it, so I couldn't rank it any higher than number 17. But this is a total hidden gem, forgotten about classic, that I am stunned with how well I feel it holds up in the year 2022 or 2023 in the event of recording this video. It is so crazy and great. I happen to be in the crowd for this match. The third night of Young Lions Cup 3 is one of my favorite live wrestling shows that I have ever attended. I've said it, many times before. It almost felt like a weird kind of all-star game of independent wrestling fans that somehow all managed to be at this show at the same time. You had myself, you had the Rob Naylors of the world, the Bar Marks of the world, the Nick Manawas of the world, people coming from all of these different areas that somehow ended up in Pittston, Pennsylvania, of all places, to watch this show. And I'm so happy that I did. And this match, I will never forget it as long as I live. I'm completely blown away by the fact that Matt Franco and Anthony Turner, two guys, and I say this, knowing Matt Turner still wrestles, but two guys that relatively made a very, small splash on the independent wrestling world. Anthony Franco not having a very long career whatsoever, but that these two guys somehow had two matches end up in the top 50 CHIKARA matches of all time, I think is a wonderful testament to, how good they were, maybe even if they weren't, appreciated as such at the time. Cheech and Cloudy, they still going strong to this day. They might not be partners anymore. I don't know the whole story there. We've heard of a falling out and whatnot, but Cheech still going strong with Colin Delaney as To Infinity and Beyond. Cloudy, still going. I don't know if I want to use the word strong, but along with Captain Nick Ando as the High Seas tag team in Empire State Wrestling and in upstate New York promotions. Two, in my opinion, independent wrestling legends, just with how long they've been around. They were part of Special K and Ring of Honor, and if you were a part of Special K, I absolutely think that you are a legend of independent wrestling. These two guys had a feud that just quietly built and built and built. At the, CHIKARA weekend of events before the third Young Lions Cup, these guys ended up wrestling in Pittston, and Cheech did a shooting star press off of one of the big speakers that they had in that venue. That venue in Pittston, the staircase, I believe it was torn down. One of the coolest pro wrestling venues of all time. Watch this match after the video and you can see what I'm talking about. It had a great balcony and cool artwork, and it was like a concert place and just a really, really awesome place out like in the Pennsylvania mountains, like out in the middle of nowhere. So really, really awesome. I loved that place. But these guys had this feud built up, and it culminated with this street fight, non-tournament action on the third night, the final night of the Young Lions Cup 3. And I don't think anybody at all was prepared for what these two would bring to the table. The Ring of Honor guys, are very much, the clean wrestlers. I talked about that in my video discussing their match with the Deathmatch Kings, where, they said, we're going to wrestle you and we don't believe in garbage wrestling. But here, just conveying how personal this rivalry was. They come out in jeans, your typical street fight gear and taped fists and everything like that. And Up in Smoke immediately jump them as they're coming into the ring, and the brawl is on. This match is all over the place. Matt Turner and Cheech wrestle up, or I should say fight, it wasn't really wrestling, but they fight up to the balcony, all the way up the stairs. There's so much cool stuff in this match that you just don't see anymore at all. Just a testament to how amazing the early 2000s independent wrestling scene was. there's a moment where one of the Ring of Honor guys, it was probably Anthony Franco, was like kneeling, and Cloudy gave him a double stomp to like his kneeling knee, which was just so vicious and awesome, and then follows that up with like a shin breaker chained into a dragon screw, chained into like a horse collar submission, or a stretch muffler. It was just totally awesome, and you don't see stuff like that anymore, and I want to see stuff like that nowadays. There's just an absolutely insane moment in this match very early on where Cheech and Turner are up in the balcony. And this is like a high, 30, 40 feet balcony in this venue. And Cheech starts, walking the railing like he's the Undertaker or Grand Naniwa. And then he gets his legs swept out from underneath him and he gets crotched on this rail. And like just the smallest off movement, he would have tumbled off of that balcony and fallen, to his death, more than likely. Just the fact that they tried that is just absolute lunacy. Even watching it back, almost 20 years later. He just continuously outdoes himself in this match, does Cheech. He gets whipped down a flight of stairs, but he actually like jumps from the landing like down the whole flight of stairs and crashes into the wall, and then proceeds to roll down the stairs, which like clearing an entire flight of stairs with a jump and flying into a wall, it's completely nuts. Cheech was a little bit of an independent wrestling message board darling at the time that this match happened. He was, like I said, in Special K and Ring of Honor, and he was given the task of making Vordell Walker look good. And you probably, if you're watching this video, you may have no idea who Vordell Walker is unless you're from Florida. But he was somebody that when Gabe Sapolsky started booking the Full Impact Pro promotion in Florida, as almost like a sister promotion to Ring of Honor, he would do these do or die cards that he would bring in like all of these guys from all over the independents to basically like give them a Ring of Honor shot. It was like a elongated pre-show, and guys that performed well like Austin Aries, and like Roderick Strong, would be brought back, and guys that, didn't perform great, or even if they did, if Gabe didn't like him, like famously Super Dragon, until the ZW feud, he was on Do or Die 2 and never brought back, which was kind of weird. And B-Boy is another example of that. And Kevin Steen and El Generico got shots on the Do or Die cards, and they weren't back, in a prominent position until a couple years later in 2007. But anyways, Gabe brought in Vordell Walker for a Do or Die show, and Cheech was his opponent, and Cheech made this dude look so good that everybody thought Vordell Walker was like the second coming and was going to be the next big independent star. Vordell Walker would go on to do absolutely nothing in Ring of Honor and very quickly fizzle out. But it's almost like the Bret Hart and Tom McGee match where, Cheech did everything in his power to make this guy look good, and it was really Cheech that, should have gotten the notoriety. But that, kind of made a lot of Cheech fans on, the message boards at that point. Barmark, I remember, championing Cheech. Cheech also, looked like Kenta a little bit, so, that kind of went to his favor because Kenta was the shit in 2005. So, Cheech had a lot going for him, but a match like this really shows how great he was. After a while, we finally get all of the guys in the ring for this match. There's really great knee work on Anthony Franco's knee that Cheech and Cloudy continue with. Matt Turner in turn is absolutely brutal, with arm work on Cloudy, just stomping away at the arm. It's disgusting stuff. We get all of these big spots and moves. Cheech did this awesome move at the time. It was like a pump handle, like reverse fall away suplex that I think, if I remember correctly, he called like the third trimester, which was super cool. So he busts that out in this match. Anthony Franco at one point hits like just a completely disgusting headbutt to Cloudy that I remember live. It sounded like someone taking like 2 5-pin bowling balls and just hitting them together. It was nasty, and it busts Anthony Franco open. He splits his own head open on this headbutt. They do a take of the first Ring of Honor show's main event's finish. So in that match, if you remember, at the Era of Honor Begins, Bryan Danielson does like a dragon suplex on Christopher Daniels, and as he's bridged, Low-Ki comes off the top with the Phoenix Splash, and then he ends up hitting the Key Crusher for the win. So they do a take on that here where Turner hits like a Tiger Suplex on Cloudy, and Cheech comes off the top with the Shooting Star Press, which was just a really cool nod to that whole Ring of Honor tie-in. All of the big moves in this match get broken up, so there's no crazy kickouts, so we get that broken up. Cheech and Cloudy hit Partly Cloudy with a Chance of Cheech, one of the best finishing move names ever. A really cool move. It's basically like a double team, like 619 and drop kick into the ropes. That gets broken up. The Ring of Honor guys hit a Spike Brainbuster, which I remember at the time, like, they hit this move, and I was at this show with my friend Joe. Shout out Big Joe if, you know, you're out there somewhere. But they hit this move, and I remember him and I, like, legitimately jumping up and down, losing our minds. Like, a Spike Brainbuster, I've never seen that before. That gets broken up, and it leads to this insane finish where all four guys are like fighting on the top rope, like jockeying for position, and Cheech gets tumbled out to the floor, and they end up hitting a Spike Tombstone pile driver off the second rope, which finally ends this match for 3. Cloudy is completely dead. There's a post-match angle to this match that just adds to it even more, and something that I love is Cloudy is completely laid out for the entire elongated post-match angle, like really putting over the severity of that crazy move he took, and I love that so much watching this now on video. So often we see like guys pop back up and be like, okay, I need to get in position for whatever's coming next, but he sold that like move like death, as he should have. We get a big standing ovation. You know, always weird to see yourself on video, a very younger version of yourself on video, you know, 17 or 18 years later. But, you know, we gave a standing ovation for the match on that night that was well deserved. We got this moment where the remaining Ring of Honor students, not Anthony Franco, Davey Andrews, Shane Hagedorn, and Evan Starsmore come out and, you know, applaud their Ring of Honor brethren. Cheech ends up jumping, you know, the Ring of Honor guys, you know, taking the cheap shot. He would get beaten down by all the Ring of Honor guys, but then we would get this big turn, essentially splitting the Ring of Honor students, where Hagedorn and Turner and Starsmore would beat down Franco and Turner. And I remember Davey Andrews had like this studded belt on, and he wrapped around his hand and, you know, used it to beat up the other guys. And Sweet and Sour Larry Sweeney, a really, really underrated moment, I think, for him. You know, he's on commentary, amazing, you know, one of the best performers of all time, as we know. But he's on commentary, and he's a heel, keep in mind. But he's so amazing in putting over this angle and just being completely outraged that even though like he's a bad guy, he's completely sick to his stomach by the actions of you know, the Ring of Honor students that turn their back on Turner and Franco. And he's so good, you know, yelling at like Davey Andrews, like, oh, you think you're a tough guy? You think you're a tough guy? I'd be a tough guy with, you know, a belt around my hands too. And, you know, yelling at Shane Hagedorn, like, yeah, show that to your kids. Like, your kids would be really proud to see what a scumbag their dad is. And it's so good. And again, that's not something you see a lot. You're used to the heel, you know, championing, you know, the other heels. But, you know, how he decided to act in that moment on commentary absolutely made the angle 1,000 times better. Larry Sweeney made everything 1,000 times better. You know, rest in peace, Larry Sweeney. You are missed so much in independent wrestling. But, you know, kind of a cheesy moment at the end where, you know, Davey Andrews and those guys like quote like Hate Breed lyrics, which was, you know, their theme song. It was CM Punk, their trainers, you know, original theme song, you know, like the I Will Be Heard, like every drop of blood, like, you know, quotes that, which is kind of hokey, but again, just, you know, makes these guys even more unlikable and deplorable. This match, like I said, I love it unconditionally. I'm so happy I was there. It's a match that, you know, watching it so long later, you could think like it doesn't hold up. And maybe, you know, if I watch this match in like 2012, 2013, it probably wouldn't have held up. But I feel like wrestling is so sorely missing, a lot of this unpredictability and a lot of these moves and sequences that we got in the early 2000s. And maybe I'm just nostalgic, maybe I'm just getting older, but I miss it. And watching this match now, it reminds me of that time period where I was never a bigger wrestling fan, and I never will be a bigger wrestling fan than I was in that era. So it makes me happy to watch now. This match, like I said, absolute hidden gem. You never hear it talked about. It should be talked about. I'm happy to talk about it today. You can watch it, of course, on independentwrestling.tv. Subscribe to my channel here on YouTube so that you never miss a video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50. And please join me again next time as we continue to count down Pro Wrestling's Top 50.